Basically, the native tribes tell the Duttons that the ranch will stay with them for 7 generations before it's given back. 7 generations later, and we have Tate Dutton, Casey and Monica's son, who's as Dutton as he is native. By having Tate take over the ranch, Sheridan would be able to bring all of his series under the Yellowstone banner to a full circle. Then he'll be able to pick up where the show left off in 4 Sixes, the sequel. That's the general idea, but fans are still speculating on how everything's going to go down. There are a few ideas for this. Some fans believe that the show will end with John Dutton riding off into the sunset with the rest of the characters figuring out a way to get him back and fighting a war against anyone who's trying to take over Yellowstone while they're at it. Then again, some people believe that John's cancer is back and he's preparing to leave the ranch in someone else's hand. That is, make it someone else's problem. There's also the possibility that he's going to write out the conditions of what to do with the ranch in his will. That way, the infighting would be more or less pointless. Speaking of his will, fans believe that he'll give Tate everything, and Thomas Rainwater would finally be able to take back what's rightfully been theirs for years. However, the Dutton family would have some stipulations. This would include giving the Dutton family a permanent home on the ranch, projects that the Dutton kids can oversee, and under no circumstances are the Rainwaters permitted to build a casino on the ranch or commercialize it in any way whatsoever. It's worth noting, though, that some fans were still holding on to hope that maybe Jamie would get a happy ending. You have to remember here that Jamie Dutton is probably a character who's gotten a ton of empathy from the fandom. Sure, he might be the villain in the finale, but he's been the poor bloke who's had to deal with an adoptive family that loathed him from the very beginning. If anyone deserves a happy ending, it's Jamie. But we know that's asking for too much. Wait, if Casey's family gets the ranch, what's going to happen to Beth and Rip? How Yellowstone will pass the torch to 4 Sixes. 4 Sixes has been in the works for a long time now, arguably since season 4 of the parent series. Here's what we know. The 4 Sixes ranch is an actual ranch that Sheridan bought back in 2021. 1. He's a developer on top of being an actor and a series creator. 2. The 4 Sixes ranch serves as the perfect backdrop for any spin-offs or limited series he comes up. So he came up with 4 Sixes. But who's starring in the series? While we don't know for sure just yet if Beth and Rip will or won't be a part of the series, we can confirm the re-entry of a fan favorite from the parent series, Jimmy. For those of you who might have forgotten, Jimmy was the ranch hand Rip took under his wing. Jimmy used to be a low-life drug dealer who found himself in heaps of trouble when he owed money to some dangerous people. That's when his granddad called in an old favor to John and asked him to hire Jimmy. The journey from being a drug dealer to a ranch hand wasn't easy, but Jamie eventually got the hang of it and got pretty good at it too. Eventually, he started venturing outside of simple cattle farming and learned that he was a real natural at the rodeo. This wasn't the best idea for John, who believed Jimmy was way in over his head. And he was right. Jimmy fell more times than he could stand up. Eventually, John sent him to Texas where he would train at the 4 Sixes ranch. Once again, Jimmy struggled in an unfamiliar location, but eventually found his place. He asked John if he could stay in Texas, and John agreed. Since then, Jimmy has found love and a life for himself at the 4 Sixes ranch. Now, the character has been mentioned ever since his move, and so has the 4 Sixes ranch. In fact, Rip had a herd of cattle moved to Texas when the winter months hit to preserve the wild stock. We also know that Jimmy will be seen again in the finale after Jeffrey White, the actor who played him, posted a selfie with the caption, "We're back!" Some fans believed he was talking about 4 Sixes, but that project hasn't even gotten off the ground yet. Will the Madison double as Season 6? It wouldn't have been Sheridanverse without just some ambiguities. Right now, the question that's brewing in the minds of fans everywhere is, huh? To elaborate, we know that Season 6 is being discussed, and we know that 4 Sixes has been greenlit. On the other hand, we also know that filming for the Madison hasn't only begun, but it's wrapped up and ready for release. 3 projects simultaneously, yet the one that's been the least hyped so far is what's being released in 2025. What's going on? To be fair, the Madison had been greenlit for a long time now, just under a different name. Think back to 2023 when Matthew McConaughey was being scouted for a cowboy role in Sheridanverse. That's right, the Madison was originally 2024. However, after Matthew pulled out from the project and Kelly and Cole agreed to stay on for longer, Sheridan changed things around. Sure, it made it all a bit confusing, but that's what you have us for. 2024 was slated as a continuation of Yellowstone with Matthew McConaughey. The fact that Sheridan had a big actor on board for a project meant that 4 6s became collateral damage. To put it rather bluntly, Paramount considered dropping 4 6s in favor of 2024 since they'd basically served the same purpose, a modern-day continuation of the Yellowstone saga. The only way 4 6s would have gone on now would have been if Sheridan wanted to use the project as Season 6 of Yellowstone. Matthew McConaughey would be a central character for another character, and the Dutton family would move to the 4 6s ranch. There'd be crossovers, but they'd largely stay separated. This was one way to go. However, with Matthew pulling out from the project, Sheridan decided to go ahead with another spin-off, The Madison. This, however, would not serve as a continuation of Yellowstone. Yes, the show is focused on a family's move from the Big Apple to Madison Valley, and yes, ranches and cattle are involved, but no, it's not the Montana ranch we've come to know and love. Think of Madison as Tulsa King, a member of Sheridanverse, but in no way linked to Yellowstone. Now that that's cleared up, let's talk about Season 6 of Yellowstone versus 4 6s. Let's be real, there's a high chance that there'd be either one or the other, but not both. We know that Season 6 would have focused more on Beth and Rip, and we know that the original ending, we think that the original ending would have seen Tate take over the ranch. This would mean that Beth and Rip are ready to start anew elsewhere. But they can't just walk away from their roots. Rip certainly can't. He'll pitch that the two of them find a way to relocate to another ranch, and wouldn't you know it, he's already been to the 4 6s ranch anyway. So in this way, Season 6 would focus on Rip and Beth while also serving as 4 6s. But it's either we get Season 6 in the form of a new Yellowstone series or have 4 6s pick up where Yellowstone left off. Still technically Season 6, but would be written as Season 1 of 4 6s. Is it confusing? You bet it is. But that's the price the fandom has to pay. Yellowstone's been plagued by one mystery after another, everything that's been set into motion since the day Kevin Costner walked away. Apparently, Sheridan wanted to continue the series for 7 seasons. That would have meant Kevin would have had to agree to 2 more seasons. Given how he had a passion project of his own to chase, yes, we're talking about Horizon, he wouldn't have agreed anyway. Maybe his exit was sudden, but it didn't necessarily come out of the blue. And that's why fans should take a deep breath. Sheridan had already anticipated the situation, and Kevin's exit didn't change the essence of the show. Also, rest assured, Sheridan is determined to give fans the Yellowstone finale that they deserve. It's the least that they deserve after the mess from 2022. Yellowstone fans tend to get 1 season a year. That's the unspoken agreement they've made with Sheridan and Paramount. However, with the lead actor's exit and then the writer's strikes, things were slowed down a bit. The finale is now coming to us after a 2-year wait, and fans are hoping it's worth it. Ian Bowen from the show can clear these doubts. He says the finale is definitely worth it. If you want to take his word for it, then the finale is actually the best finale in television history since, well, ever. We'll have to wait and watch for ourselves, but it'd be a pretty good bet that Sheridan has something amazing in store for us. Whether it's the ending he always planned or one he modified along the way, rest assured, Yellowstone's ending with a bang like none other. Oh, and to make the deal sweeter, there's still so much more to come from the brilliant mind of the series creator. Stay tuned for that too. What are your theories for the finale? Let us know in the comments. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe for more. We'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.